Friends, don't give up on anyone. People change. Times change. In its last report in 2001, the International Panel on Climate Change, consisting of hundreds of scientists and reviewers, said that the confidence level for its projection that human activity was responsible for global warming was 66 to 90%, considering it very likely that humans were having an effect. Recently, in February, they issued their most recent report. They have now raised that to very likely, because they are now 90% convinced that human activity is leading to global warming. And here's the main point. After that report was released early this year, the Bush administration, this is a quote from the New York Times, which until recently avoided directly accepting that humans were warming the planet in potentially harmful ways, embraced the findings, which had been approved by representatives from the United States and 112 other countries. So people change. We keep putting on the pressure, and people change. Now, Bill Onasch is a retired Metro bus driver and former vice president of Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1287. While leading the union's Community Outreach Committee in the 1990s, he worked with organizations such as the Sierra Club and Labor Party to oppose cuts in transit service. Onasch delivered a presentation entitled "Labor and Environmentalists Are Natural Allies," right? Yeah! At the Labor and Sustainability Conference in St. Paul this January. He represents Midwest Labor Party chapters on the party's National Council. Bill, come on down.
I usually open greetings by saying sisters and brothers. I hope that doesn't offend anybody here. Let me begin by saluting the organizations and the hard-working individual activists who made this event possible, as well as those of you that are here today. And we are hopeful that this is the beginning of a new, broader, and bolder response to what is probably the most serious crisis humanity has yet to confront. Now, relations between the labor and environmental movements have, of course, not always been harmonious. Some have seen, and a few continue to see, environmental measures as a threat to existing good jobs. We in the Labor Party were fortunate that the man we call our founding brother, the late Tony Mazzocchi, not only played a central role in the fight that went on to establish OSHA to deal with our workplace environment, but he also had a lifelong commitment to broader environmental issues, collaborating with pioneers of the environmental movement such as Barry Commoner and Ralph Nader. A leader in the old Oil, Chemical, and Atomic Workers Union, he won over the workers employed by some of the worst corporate polluters to an environmentalist vision. That union today is part of the Steelworkers, which is one of the sponsors of this event and one of the national unions affiliated with the Labor Party. Now, Tony helped the Labor Party formulate an environmental policy that we call just transition. We recognize that as we restructure our economy away from environmental destruction towards sustainability, many current jobs will be eliminated. But as we implement these needed far-reaching changes, we at the same time must assure the affected workers that they will be retrained, placed in good jobs in new industries that will replace the old, and guarantee they and their families will continue to have a decent standard of living in the process. We propose to pay for this just transition primarily through an expansion of the Superfund concept. Now, the Superfund tax, as you probably know, which has now been suspended, its collection has been suspended at any rate by the Bush administration. It was established to pay for the toxic messes left behind at plant sites abandoned by corporate polluters. We think that those who have profited from decades of poisoning our environment should also pay to help their former workers become become productive in a new sustainable economy. This past January, I was invited to speak to a labor and sustainability conference up in St. Paul. The event was initiated by United Auto Workers Law. It's a local and a Ford plant that's in the process of being permanently shut down. Now, the union has been campaigning for a community takeover of the plant and using it and its workforce to convert the production of clean transit vehicles. I reminded them that in 1942, all auto production in this country came to an abrupt halt. The government took over the planning and directing of those plants, converting them to other uses, retained and expanded the workforce with their union contracts intact, and achieved an historic industrial success. Then it was production for war. Why can't we do the same thing today, making things like clean transit vehicles to save our planet from destruction? The conference in St. Paul was a remarkable gathering. It was a good mix of blue-collar workers and tree huggers. They met with mutual respect, learned from one another, I believe, and have established a continuations committee to move forward and take further steps. I think its success needs to be replicated throughout the country, even here in Kansas City. Great social change, such as required to halt and reverse the forces changing our climate, has always been the product of great mass movements. We need to leave here today determined to educate, agitate, and organize in our communities, workplaces, and campuses, and not rest until we have accomplished our mission to save this planet.